tall. Words are blades that never fall. Debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean. Spirited minds sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night. Join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the Spartan arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena there's no chance to escape the vibrant lore. Dive in deep and search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the Spartan arena, where minds clash and thoughts gleam. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard.
Well, good evening, everyone. Obviously, I am not the Spartan. I am substituting for Sparta. He has some things to do tonight, so he asked me to kind of step in. Now, I admit that I certainly am I would say I'm a lifelong wrestling fan, or some people would say a wrestling fan. So I go back to the 70s. That's how far I go back with professional wrestling or sports entertainment, however you want to call it. And so I admit that there's blocks. I kind of go in and out. So I'll be locked in for some time, then I'll go out. I may watch something else. I may be pulled back in. So I'm not as good with the history of wrestling. So tonight on this Wrestle Talk show, again, I'm going to talk about the Royal Rumble. Again, I honestly, I've watched a little bit of it. I definitely did a bit of research on it prior to the show to get more insights on it. Now, there's always been a thing called battle royals and different matches like that within wrestling history. I mean, the tradition goes back a ways, but I think the Royal Rumble certainly introduced some wrinkles that certainly for younger fans you would recognize today. That that hopefully adds to some of the excitement of the event. But certainly before we get too much into this thing, and I'm hoping Wally, he'll be in here tonight to certainly join me on the show. Just a couple things that we want to cover before you come in. First of all, make sure you hit the like button as you come into the show. It really helps us out, helps the algorithm. Also, consider becoming a member of the Sparta HQ Network. We have shows on, at least 5 shows a week. And so I'm sure you'll find something, a conversation to your liking, lots of different chats, lots of different rooms that you can participate in. So, make sure to subscribe to the Sparta HQ Network. And as you come in tonight in the chat, certainly we ask that when you come in, make sure, again, no personal attacks, insults, or threats. Avoid offensive language, including slurs based on race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation. Be courteous and polite to other viewers. So hopefully we just want to, keep the environment clean. You can certainly bring your passion, but certainly keep it respectful. certainly at the same time. And and certainly, like I said, Wally, he would probably have more insights into the Royal Rumble that I may not necessarily have. But like I said, I was able to do a quick sort of clip notes to sort of get caught up on. I'm familiar with the names. I'm familiar with some of the athletes, but as far as following the event itself, maybe not as much. So certainly I can kind of give you guys some background. Things you may or may not have known about the Royal Rumble, and then Wally, he can certainly fill in some of the spots that he is, most familiar with, and those things that he most admires about the event. But like I said, I go back a while, so I remember, 15-man battle royals is what they used to call them back in the 70s and the 80s. And the thing that was different about those matches is that everybody would be there at the same time. So you would have the wrestlers; they would all kind of come down to the ring and all get in the ring. And then it was about, strategy with a full deck, starting out. And, a lot of those folks would be tag teams and whatnot. So again, there would be some strategy in terms of how you would go about indulging, so the tag teams, they would kind of work it down to a point where there were shows when, the final two was the tag team. And then a lot of times it was, or the very good friends. And there were a lot of times when, it would almost be a coin toss or a courtesy. One guy would be taken out. I remember Mr. USA Tony Atlas and what's my man's name? Phil from Philadelphia. I'm just having a brain freeze right now. But so they got down to those two, and Tony Atlas, he was known for the big press. He would press a guy over his head and slam him down. So SD Jones. So it was him and SD Jones. Certainly they were really good friends in real life. Basically SD conceded to Mr. USA Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas basically pressed him over the ring, but then put him down gently on the apron, and then he got off, and he was like the winner. If you go to other promotions, there have been things like in the NWA, they would have like bunkhouse stampedes that were, again, a pretty popular event. I didn't see a ton of them. Like, back then, a lot of these were like pay-per-views or something like that. And, you would see highlights of some of those actions or some of those matches. And what would come out of those would be some of the drama that'd be involved. Shout out to my guy, Eric. So, yeah, I may need you tonight in terms of filling me in on some of these details here when it comes to these. But I remember the most famous thing that I remember from the bunkhouse stampedes was when Lex Luger went face. So he was already having issues with the Horsemen, and it was basically he made his face turn at one of the bunkhouse stampedes, and that kind of launched his that, and obviously he would go back and forth between heel and face throughout, and but he formed a very successful tag team with Barry Windham, and they would certainly go on to win the NWA tag team titles. And then, certainly, then Barry made a heel turn. He did his thing. But, certainly those kind of matches, like I said, they've always been a staple in wrestling. But starting in the 80s, in fact, let me just bring this up. Just my notes here that I was able to get on the Royal Rumble, and then I may quiz Eric a little bit here too, as far as some of the trivia when it comes to the Royal Rumble. So the Royal Rumble, you have to give credit to Pat Patterson, who he pitched the idea to Vince in 1987. And at the time, Vince really, and, again, his idea was, again, rather than having all the participants in the ring at the start of the event, why not have it where you would have like a time limit and a participant would come down after an interval of some kind? That was it. That was Pat Patterson's idea. Now, Vince wasn't a big fan, apparently, of the idea, but because, obviously Pat was one of his right-hand guys, he gave Pat a chance to do it. But the first Royal Rumble was actually at a house show. And the date of that was October 4th, 1987, at a house show was the first Royal Rumble. And just trivia, if anybody can guess who was the first winner, don't Google it. But the first winner of the Royal Rumble that wasn't televised, and it only had 12 participants in it. So again, so this was like a test run, was the one-man gang. So again, so some of you younger viewers, you may not be as familiar with, some of those older stars from the 80s and the 90s, but certainly One Man Gang was the first winner of a house show Royal Rumble. And, even then it's hard to kind of say it's successful because it's at a house show. It's not televised. So, now maybe a lot of people knew about it, but Vince, I think, saw enough in it to where he was willing to give it another shot, but in a televised environment. Pat Patterson was saying, look, if this thing's going to come off, people need to be able to see it. And so the second Royal Rumble took place on January 24th, 1988. And it was on the USA Network, which was certainly a big hub of WWF programming at the time. They did a special event. And in this one, you also had 20 competitors. Now, if you understand that, it was a big success on the USA Network. Now, also keep in mind, the president of USA Network of the time was Dick Ebersol, who also had a stint at NBC, where you saw a lot of the Saturday night main events. And he was a big fan of it. And I think that, so that combination of having it on USA, very popular turnout, bigger stage where people saw it, and they expanded the field. Because again, the first one, as I said earlier, it only had 12 competitors in it. This one had 20. And there is where you really saw the where it became something like, yeah, we need to run this back. And so you had, in that same year, you had multiple Royal Rumbles. Some were house shows that were run within that same year. But the winner of the first televised Royal Rumble was Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And again, so that was January 24th of 1998. Was very popular, very well received. And it kind of took off from there. And so again, the first winner was the One Man Gang, but that was at a house show. The second on television was Duggan. There were two more house shows that year. One was won by Jake Roberts, the other one by Rick Rude. But that was really the takeoff at that 1988 showing. Now, the third one took place on January 15th, 1989. This was the second televised appearance. Now, this was important because this was the first one where you had 30 participants, which, from what I understand, is still the format now. Royal Rumbles typically have 30 competitors in them. The first 30-man Royal Rumble was in January 15th of 89, and it was also the first Royal Rumble on pay-per-view. And the winner of that one was Big John Studd. Again, for you younger guys, some of those shows weren't, some of those athletes you may not be familiar with. They might have been before your time. But, certainly, again, in the 70s and 80s, Big John Studd, he was, again, one of the giants, like Ernie Ladd and, of course, Andre the Giant, who won. He used to win a lot of those battle royals back in the day because he obviously is the biggest guy. So, they certainly put him over a lot, certainly in those settings. And so again, it became a staple at that point. Now, I'm just going to jump through a few years, just calling out some significant moments. Now, again, obviously, it's been around for a long time. So I didn't capture every highlight or every segment. That's why I'm hoping Wally, he can come in and give more insight to some of the newer incarnations of the Rumble and whatnot, and some of the turning points, certainly in the event. But I'm just going to go through some of these highlights here, just for just for your edification, and certainly for me, because like I said, I had to find out about these things. Jump to 1992 was significant with the Royal Rumble, because this was the first Royal Rumble where the WWF title, it was due to some title changes between Hulk Hogan and Undertaker or whatever. The title was up for grabs at the Royal Rumble, and so so again, the winner of that would be the WWF champion. And that first one of that incarnation was Ric Flair. He made he exited WCW. He took the big gold belt with him. That was a big controversial thing. He tried to show it on TV, and they would always try to put the smudge on there to block it out so people couldn't see it. But this was the first one where the title was up for grabs. The next year, they put a rule into the Royal Rumble where the winner of the Rumble would get a shot at the title at WrestleMania. That took place in 1993. The first winner, the winner of that show was Yokozuna. So go to that Hanoi tree with the Samoans and the Polynesian clans and whatnot. He was the first one to win that. Jump to 1994. This was the first one where you technically had sort of these dual winners, because Vince, he wasn't sure. Obviously, you had the Lex Express, going on at the time, but then you also had Bret Hart, and Vince really wasn't sure which guy he wanted to push at the time. So in that one, both Bret and Lex, they kind of landed at the same time outside the ring. And through a series of events or whatever, basically Lex, at some point, he went back to WCW. I'm not sure the exact timeline, but basically Bret was going to be the guy at that one. And so there you had, that was more like a political thing in terms of what Vince wanted to do. He wasn't sure, so he kind of had like the double finish, so he could have more flexibility to play with who he wanted to be champion at that particular time. 1995, 1996, Shawn Michaels won back-to-back. He was the second person. I forget who the first person was to win back-to-back. It might have been Andre. I'm not sure. But he was the first person to win. It's the second person to win back-to-back, but he was the first to win after entering number one. So think about it. So for the whole match, he's in there, and he comes out on top, and again, wins it back-to-back. Now, 1997, 1998, Stone Cold Steve Austin wins back-to-back. But technically, he didn't win the 1997 show, because technically he got eliminated, but apparently in the storyline, the referee didn't see it. And so he kind of snuck himself back in the ring, and he kind of won the event, but he didn't get a title shot that year. He did get the next year, though. And so, but that also interesting, because you also had 1999 where Vince won, and Vince McMahon actually won his own show. But at this point, this is you're really in the thick of the whole Stone Cold versus Vince drama that took place over several years, and that was a storyline that they were able to run with. So I think one of the things about the Royal Rumble that people are saying that what made it really good is that the storylines that you could spin off of it. Like I said, sometimes you would have tag team partners in there, or close friends in there, but one friend would sort of double cross another one and eliminate, or help to eliminate, their friend out of the ring, their partner out of the ring. And that would kind of you could go some storylines with that. You could talk about, the guy getting upset with his tag team partner, or the rift or the tension, because here you got folks who were, in position to win it. And, so that sometimes that would cause some friction. So, it was always there. But certainly the storylines that came out of Royal Rumbles, and you, like I said, you already knew who your WrestleMania, who one of your WrestleMania participants was going to be. because again, the winner of the Rumble got the title shot. Now, who the WWE or F champion was, that's variable. Because again, if you may lose, and then you could be facing a totally different opponent, but the guaranteed opponent was the winner of the Royal Rumble. And again, that started taking place in, like I said, the 1993 show, where people started, getting those title shots. I just got a few more highlights, and then I'm just going to free lib it. Like I said, I'm not the biggest follower, certainly of the Royal Rumble and whatnot. And like I said, I'm not as much into current WWE at the time. But like I said, I do have familiarity with some of the shows or some of the things that I remember from the Royal Rumbles that I may share. And if I can't go any further than that, then I may end the show early. Or folks are certainly free to come in and sort of pick it up where they left off. But the last, just a couple more highlights here. The Rock won in 2000, even though, again, it was like a botched finish because he was supposed to win, but I think his feet landed. Him and Big Show went over, and I think his feet landed first or whatever. So, again, that was like a controversial thing, and they had to try to make something up there. But that was The Rock's first was 2000. 2001 was interesting because that was the first time he had a 3-time winner, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. So he won back-to-back, 97, 98. He won it again in 2001. And another interesting thing about the Rumble was that was the first time, and I'm talking specifically about the 2001 Royal Rumble. Another wrinkle that they put into it was you would get like a surprise competitor. That maybe it could be an older veteran of some kind that maybe not have been on the scene for some time, but from nowhere they come in. So by that time, Mr. Perfect wasn't necessarily around. He made an entrance, certainly into the ring, or Jim Duggan, or somebody who might have left and went elsewhere, maybe went to semi-retirement, but sometimes that surprise, the idea was who was going to be the next person out from the curtain. That became a thing in terms of, you trying to predict who's predict that. I'm sure now, especially with DraftKings and all these gambling platforms now, they probably have some pools for that where you can predict, just like, I guess, like March Madness, where you pick your brackets. You could probably pick out who comes in from man 1 to 30 and who stays until the end, who wins it, but then who comes in the order of the competitor. I'm sure those are things you can probably bet on right now. And those people, certainly, made it, entertaining, I guess, especially when you saw some of the old veterans and whatnot. It gave them a chance to reclaim some glory from back in the day. And, so it just made them really, good. But I think my guy Wally is here to tag me in, because, like I said, I've been going here for a minute, and like I said, I'm not the biggest expert on this, but like I said, I'm just filling in for Pete. But Wally, welcome to the show. Glad you showed up. But first of all, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So I've been trying to. I've given my sort of Royal Rumble history lesson, kind of going back and talk about how it got started and some of the pivotal moments, some of the changes that were made that reflect the current state of the Royal Rumble today. Talking about the winners getting the title shots at at the WrestleManias or whatnot, or when it went to 30 people, where you started to have the surprise. When you started having the surprise guests and whatnot. So just kind of, like I said, it was an education for myself. I kind of saw sort of a Cliff Notes video that kind of went over some of that history, and there's certainly some things I didn't know certainly about the event. The last thing I was going to mention was the 2003 Royal Rumble was significant because that was right after the brand split of 2002. We had Raw and SmackDown. So the winner at the time, they could declare which belt that they want to go after at WrestleMania, certainly going forward. And so I kind of stopped it there, because again, you got 30 something years. Like I said, it started in '87, so you got like I said, a lot of history here in terms of the event itself. Almost going on 40 years now of history, so that's a lot to cover. Each individual thing. The only thing I honestly remember from the event that I thought was just like the coolest thing was I remember one year, because again the rule was both feet have to touch the ground, and there were always, you had these near misses where a guy would go over the top rope, but he would hold on to it, and he would be able to flip himself, like his feet would be dangling off, but they wouldn't touch the ground, and a guy would be able to kind of pull on the rope and pull himself back over the rope and maintain the match. Saw that several times. I know Ricky Steamboat, I know he was popular for doing that, and a lot of wrestlers, but probably the most insane thing I saw, which I thought, the fact that he deserved to win it, but he didn't, was I think Kofi Kingston one year. He was in one, he went outside, but somehow he landed on his hands, and he did like a handstand walk, and he basically walked himself back over to the apron and was able to pull himself back in the ring. I thought at the time when I saw that was like the most athletic thing I could recall ever seeing. As far as, like I said, the guys hanging onto the ropes and pulling himself over, that was a pretty common thing. But I never saw anyone who avoided elimination by walking on their hands over to the stairs and then flipping over and pulling themselves back in the ring. But he got eliminated like a few moves later. But I'm thinking, if you could do that, you deserve to win one, at least one. But I don't think they gave it to him at the time. But those are the things that I remember from the event. Again, I remember some face and heel turns, because again, you got former friends and partners, and they'll, one guy will double cross the other one and throw him out the ring or whatnot, and then they got the beef, but then you got a storyline that you can kind of go off of going forward in future endeavors. So those are the things that I kind of remember, from my time watching, going in and out of regular watching of Royal Rumbles and what they represented. But it definitely seems to be a very popular addition, certainly to the WWE calendar. Although I never really enjoyed it that much when you had too many guys in the ring. Well, like if you got 20 guys in the ring, I don't know, I guess it doesn't flow right in my view. But what are your thoughts on the Rumble? What do you like about the Rumble? What is your most memorable Rumbles, if you were going to kind of rank them in terms of your Mount Rushmore of Rumbles, and how do you see them? And like I said, I'm tagging you in because I've been going here for the first 30 minutes here, so and I think I gave you what I got.
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, as far as the history of the Rumble, I mean, I haven't known too much of the history of the Rumble as far as just what it just plays out to be. 30 man, you clock them in every so often, like about 15 minutes or so, right? And then the next new person comes in after the first two starts off. The person that ends up being the last man standing pretty much is the one that gets the meal ticket to go to WrestleMania and gets a world title shot,
right,
of their choosing. So that right there is pretty much one thing I knew. I mean, I guess one thing I didn't ultimately knew. So back then, it was never like, pretty much like you mentioned, right? As far as some parts of history, like back then, they never instilled that there was a winner, like a big stake. It was just whoever's the last man standing, pretty much back then. But that changed like around the 1993s.
Yeah, 1993, with Yokozuna being the winner. He got the shot at the title at WrestleMania, and that became like a staple going forward. So like I said, over the years, the things what you know of it today, it kind of came in layers. Like the first one was only 12 participants. The second one was 20 participants. And then so on and so forth, and they just started adding more to it. And I think now, you may know more about some of the more recent ones. Like I said, the 1992 was interesting because that one the title was actually vacant. So they made that one where the winner of the Rumble was the WWF champion, and that was Ric Flair in
Right.
1992. I don't know if that's been done since, but certainly
Um,
that
if
was
I'm
a
not mistaken, there was 1 year they had Roman Reigns go into the Rumble as the champion, defend it through that gauntlet, and then he end up. I think, yeah, I forgot what year it was, but I believe there was a year for that, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah,
I'm gonna check it up because I've got to remember.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so it's like it's kind of evolved as a product over time. Like I said, battle royals have always been a thing. Bunkhouse stampedes in the NWA and battle royals and WWF at the time. So you always saw those. But like I said, it always started out with everybody in the ring at the same time. Go. And then people would be like, okay, well, and especially with the tag team guys or the friends, they'd be like, okay, let's go up to this guy, let's go up to this guy. So it was always kind of starting out that way. But I think certainly the surprise element of it, I think, was certainly a wrinkle that was pretty much genius in terms of that sort of anticipation. And sometimes when someone's music popped, the crowd would just go nuts in terms of who that was. And I'm thinking now, I would think that you could probably gamble on that now if you wanted to, like DraftKings, like the fact that DraftKings and these other gambling sites, you can bet on it. Who's coming in? It's just like when you pick your basketball brackets doing like the NCAA tournament, right? You can choose who wins round to round. You could probably choose all 30. Now, I'd be curious to know, has there been a winner, somebody who picked all 30 guys in order? Now, who the winner is, that's almost like a separate category. But if you could pick all 30 guys in order, and like the prize is like $1 million or something like that, if you were able to, I mean, think about the odds of that happening, right?
It's just astronomical.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm
you
saying,
really have to be an insider just to know.
well, like I said, it's just like the like I said, the tournament. You got to choose. I guess you got to pick 64 teams, or not, actually it's like 68 teams. You got to pick if you want to win the bracket, the thing. You got to pick all those matchups and all those winners from those brackets, and then who's going to win from round. Now it gets a little bit easier round to round because you would think the more elite teams down the stretch, they're going to like if Duke or North Carolina, for example, just hypothetically, if they're playing Creighton or something, yeah, it's like that's almost like an easy win, so to speak. But you still have to pick that bracket, and it's like very few people. It's still like in the millions in terms of the odds of you picking your brackets and winning all your brackets. I would think that picking in a linear fashion the Royal Rumble entrance, because who the players, who the participants are. You would think. I mean, it would be challenging, but I would think. I'd be curious to know if somebody pulled that off, especially in this era of gambling, where people will gamble on just about anything, even on sports entertainment. People will still, choose to do that. But yeah, but I think it would definitely increase just the watchability of it, because again, you want to know, who if you won or not, and then you can go down in tiers. You may not have gotten all 30 in a row. You might get 27 out of 30, however they break that down, in terms of, second place, third place, etc. But yeah, I could certainly see even people who are not even interested, just like in regular sports. You got a lot of people who bet on sports who have no interest in sports as fans. I mean, they look at the analytics, they look at the, the data, and they make predictions and stuff, and and they try to make money off it. So that's another fan base that you would think you'd entertain now with the introduction of the sports gambling component to it.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. No, so pretty much what you asked me before, right? Was there anyone other than what they did back in 1992 as far as putting the title for the Royal Rumble? Yes. So like I said, it was Roman. This was back in 2016 when they did this. So pretty much the storyline was pretty much it was all hell bent against Roman, and they pretty much put him in a predicament where he had to defend the title during the Royal Rumble against every 30 man, and I guess he had to start it out, and then as a surprise output, Triple H was number 30, and he eliminated him, and then of course got eliminated by Dean Ambrose, which ended up winning the title. So yeah, that was that storyline right there.
Right.
So there's only been two in history where a title was determined exactly in the Royal Rumble.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess out of the Rumbles, what is there one that's or a couple that are particularly your favorites that you
If I had to say, like, I can't say favorites because I gotta remember, like, just to remember them all is really like impossible for me because I can't remember them all. But I could say, like, if you want to talk about moments, like WrestleMania moments,
Yeah.
Like for instance, like this was more so of a history I had to look back on. But for instance, 1994, which is the year I was born, the Brat and Lex Luthor, Lex Luthor, that situation, with Bret being, I guess, the main winner, and then Lex Luthor being the co-winner.
Yeah, because they both went over the rope at the same time. And I was hearing that it was because Vince, he didn't know who he wanted to go with. Like, he was doing that Lex Express thing.
Right.
But it wasn't like Lex just wasn't hitting. Like, I was still into wrestling for a good part of that. It was just before the Attitude Era that I just got into some other things. But Lex was, definitely after Hogan, McMahon was definitely looking for that next guy. He always likes the big guys, the muscular guys and whatnot. So he was trying to sell people on Lex, but honestly, he wasn't hitting. I mean, it just wasn't. It was almost like Roman Reigns initially. It was like the fans are saying no, like we don't. But fans, he's like, look, you gotta love him. He's blonde. He's muscular. He's he's got all these attributes, and people were just saying no. But at the time, he was really torn. As far as do I want to push Bret? Who's kind of technically, I think Bret's one of the greatest wrestlers ever, but personality wise, he's not gonna win you over. He's not gonna get you with the promos. He's not gonna do a lot of things, and I think that was what ultimately led to, I think, him and Vince's relationship souring, and him looking at Shawn Michaels as the next guy. I mean, it's. So again, I Bret as a tactician, just like when he says excellence of execution, yeah, I can rock with all of that.
Right.
But Vince, he was in a tough situation. Do I go with the more proficient guy, or do I go?
Lex Luger was really playing. As far as just looking back at visual history of some of his stuff, he was really playing. You really couldn't. They really don't sell a market for him.
Right.
So yeah, but that was one of it for sure because that whole debacle was very interesting. Let me see here. I know there was definitely like some Stone Cold. I don't know, like, because Stone Cold, Stone Cold, he holds the record. He won 3.
Yeah.
2 back-to-back, which is 97, 98.
98.
And then, of course,
right.
01.
Yeah.
The only difference is now which one's his best one. I have to really look back into to know which is best one. But yeah, he definitely has like 3. For me, as far as the next one, I think if I'm not mistaken, this was the year when he ended up going to WrestleMania and both him and Eddie had this, but 04 with Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
I think if that was the moment when they both were celebrated, when they both had the titles, then yeah, definitely that one for me. For sure. Another one, definitely Ray. I got to put Ray up there because Ray, that record of that 1 hour long standing ovation of him being in there and just being like very witty with the presence.
Yeah,
you got to give him that. You just got to.
Yeah,
that was high up there.
Everyone, I guess, roots for David. David over Goliath. So I mean, definitely he was able to pull that off. Yeah, for sure.
Very good. 08, definitely with John Cena. That moment with him coming back when no one didn't expect it. I think that was a nice solidarity moment. for sure. Let me see. Another one I will give the 2011 because that was the only Royal Rumble where that was a 40-man Royal Rumble and Alberto Del Rio won that one.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Um,
In one ring, it wasn't like a dual
yeah,
ring kind of.
One Ring. That was all One Ring at the time.
Wow.
I don't know if they did it at the start, like everyone, or they just did it by the same count. But I believe that was there. Hold on, Eric, you said a bit of side trivia. Both Hogan and Luger were
Yeah,
trained.
Hero Matsuda. Yep. Yeah, yeah. Hero broke Hulk Hogan's leg in his first training session. But he came back. He's like, look, if you still want to do this, come back after you heal up and go. But it's like, back then, you had all these guys were shooters because everybody was like, yeah, I want to get into wrestling, yada yada yada, and all these old school trainers and whatnot. They would either stretch you or they would hurt you,
Right.
just to let you know that look, if you come in here thinking, oh yeah, I can do that and that's easy or whatever, it's like no, this stuff can actually, if you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt somebody, you can hurt me, and you better respect this process before you get in. So the old school, it was almost like they would try to make you quit before you would before you would even get a shot to train and pay your dues and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the first session that Hogan went in trying to be a wrestler, he got his leg broke. So I mean, it was definitely a very different landscape back then. But if you look at AWA and those guys, they get stretched out also. I mean, and some of the guys who came in there like Iron Sheik, I mean, this guy's an Olympic wrestling champion, and he got stretched out. Going to Vern Gagne's AWA promotion or whatnot. So yeah, they did not play with it's like if you don't survive, you ain't getting in. So this definitely wasn't your tough enough version of getting into the business.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the last one that I would say that was a little bit of some hype. I think it was 2021 when Edge came back. That was hype for me.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie. Because I didn't think, because seeing him come back and no one didn't know like that was gonna even happen, like that was shock factor treatment.
Right. Which is kind of surprising because you would think, because I mean, leaks are always coming out, right? So the fact that you were able to hold that kind of pop.
I mean, no, because I think in most cases, because at that time, I think Vince was still there, and usually, from what I know so far, when Vince is around, he's usually the one holding all that information before it even gets leaked out. But nowadays, under Triple H's regime and stuff like that, it seems like leaks are just falling out of the woodworks for free. But yeah. But I'm glad they usually keep that under wraps because it would ruin the surprise, and I'd rather be shocked than just be like, oh, well, we all know who's coming in. It's like,
right. Yeah. But is that your biggest pop also? Like the Edge comeback out of all because they started doing that. I think it was let me just double check that. I think that was in 2001.
Yes.
Is when they started bringing in a lot of the OGs who were who might have been back in the day. Like I said, when Mr. Perfect came back, because that was a big pop. I think the first guy, I was just on the tip of my tongue too. The first guy came back was I want to say it's Hacksaw, but I gotta confirm that. But it's like seeing the legends come back has always been a big thing.
Yeah. It really depends. Like no, for me it's like usually when I think about like surprise moment pops, I just usually think about I never would think this person would be there. Like usually for a legend, I don't really take it too much because at least for a legend, I would have hope there is something there, or like there is something in a grand scheme of there's some type of form of interest, like because like usually when a legend comes, they're coming in there just to fill in a spot.
Right.
They're not really doing nothing afterwards.
Right.
So I wouldn't take too much into that from a legend too much.
Right.
So for me, it's like someone current or someone that's coming back that I didn't expect to come back. Those really
Right.
get more pops for me. So that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Like when Edge or when when John Cena, because John, most people did not expect John to come back. That
Right.
injury and how they were showing that off, they were not expecting him to come back anytime faster than what he did.
Hmm.
So knowing when he came back at the way he did it, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a shocker because
Yeah.
people were shook when they saw
Yeah.
that.
But
So
I would think that'd be the best way to do it. Look, remember when
yeah,
Bautista came back a few years ago?
right, right.
I thought that was just cool because like nobody was like there was no pop there. If you would have came back in a Rumble, I think that would have been a much better way to introduce or reintroduce him back in versus just
Right.
saying,
So
"Okay, I'm
yeah,
here," and that's it. Or even some of the ones with when Jericho, when he would make now his would pop regardless.
well, yeah, and people are talking about that recently because people are saying, well, because they know that Jericho's done with his contract with AEW, and they're questioning, are they considered? People are talking in the woodworks. Is he coming back to WWE? When it will be a perfect time for him to pop up back in WWE now, especially since, for those that don't know, Royal Rumble is tomorrow. Literally,
Mm,
the actual event will be tomorrow. So stay tuned for that if you're gonna have the chance to watch it.
right.
But so yeah, it's one of those things for sure. So that's what I'm saying. Like especially with him, because with Jericho, anytime you see that nice blip of the numbers and then you see the swirl, you
Yeah.
already know that you already know you already. Or did
Yeah.
you see the you see the sign with him cross-eyed and arms? I'm like, here we go. I'm
Yeah.
like, so yeah, so definitely when anytime you see that a certain two signs, it's like you already know Jericho's coming. It's like so that's what I'm saying. Like, and I know like I don't know if he's coming back this Royal Rumble, right? People are making a lot of speculations because I ain't gonna lie, it makes sense because
Mm,
you're done with AEW, right? You're not going back. You're not re-signed. So it's like, well, where are you going from here if you're trying to end your career at this point,
right.
right?
Right.
You're not going to go to another wrestling corporation and say, okay, I'm going to start fresh here and then end it here. Like, no, you're going to come back home and then end it off. It's just when. When are y'all going to finally officiate this deal? When you feel comfortable with the money you're getting for your last ride and
Hmm.
how you want to do it, and it makes sense to you to say, all right, I'm ready to go. And that's the thing. So people are really trying to get that moment, like trying to get that moment. Because I ain't gonna lie, if he comes through, he drops that moment in there, and whatever number he's is, and then boom, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. People are gonna be screaming for that.
Well, actually, let me ask you that then. Do you think? Because like I said, I'm not as in tune as you may be with this. Is there a number that is like if you were going to pick, let's say if you go to Vince or whoever it is, they decide the order of people coming out.
Mm-hmm.
If you could pick, what number would you want to be, or what just generally, it doesn't have to be the exact. You want to be in the beginning, you want to be in the middle, you want to be at the end. Because I know again you had like Shawn Michaels, he was like one of the first guys who was in number one and still won it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's certainly something that you can certainly hang your hat on. But if you come in 29, I mean, are you really going to get a serious pop off that? So is there a particular number that you would prefer if you can go and pick your, roughly where you want to wind up? That would be a good pop for a wrestler.
I mean, I would say this, right? When we think about like numbers and a nice pop, usually when we think about, because this is my thing, right? I always relate pops with one, the wrestler, and two, the unpredictability of knowing if they're here or not. I think usually when you think about numbers like later, you sort of think about the most unpredictablest person that you didn't thought that was coming.
Hmm.
So those are like those later numbers are for the unpredictable, like, oh wait, he's here. No, you can't be serious. Like those you reserve those numbers for that type of person towards the end. That's
Hmm.
why the pop with John Cena back in the days, that why it hit because you didn't expect him to come, but when he came and towards the end, it's like, oh, that's not good. right?
Right.
So,
Right.
those types of things like that, those are definitely like some good landing spots. But I would say for me, if I had to choose a number that seemed really good for me, I think always a smart landing spot, 15.
Hmm. It's in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll click it right there.
Right. Plus, I think the action, like I said, I don't know, at least from what I've seen, just from battle royals in general, when
Hmm.
you got like 20 guys in there, one, it's hard to follow everything, right?
Hmm.
Because they got two or three guys working to guard in the corner, and then these guys are kind of going like you can't focus on anything because there's so much, and that's on TV. I can't even imagine what it's going to be live. You trying to follow everything that's going on because based on your seat, might not even be able to see what's
Right,
going
and then
on in
plus
another
the
corner or something.
angling, yeah, the angle.
Exactly, exactly. So my thing is, I think a 15 is nice, or certainly either a early number or a late one, because again, but once you get into the 20s, was I say about 25, you would think a lot of guys already got eliminated. So again, you're kind of getting down to like your final 10 or 12. I think 10, 12 guys in a ring is probably from a watch, to be the ability to watch. That's probably the best viewing experience for the fan when you got about 10 guys or less in the ring. But you got 20, it's just like molasses. It's just slow. It's like, okay, where's this going? And a lot of times all they do, like the camera, at least back in the day, the
Right.
camera would just flash over, oh, this guy's eliminated and this guy's eliminated, and you didn't even see how the guy got eliminated. It's just they just got thrown out the ring. Or you get two or three guys eliminated all at the same time. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's like, it's hard to follow when you have that many persons in there trying to do the all at the same time. So I would think that 15 would be the max. I may even say something like 10 to 12, or give me like a late number, 27, 28, something like in there, where again you could at least move around and have some things. But they'd be,
Yeah.
and back in the day, especially when you used to have like Andre the Giant or something, they'd be like 7, 8 guys all trying to work on Andre the Giant to get him out the ring, or Rikishi or Yokozuna. It'd be like all these guys. What, five guys got the legs, and the other guys he's
Right.
just holding on like this. It's like I'm not
Right.
moving. I'm like that's not necessarily entertaining. Trying to see that, but I know obviously he's a big guy, obviously, but when it gets to that,
Mhm.
when it gets to that extreme, again, I like to see flow. I like to see, like I said, action. And really, that doesn't happen until you get. I mean, to me, where it really is exciting when you get down to the final four.
Right.
That's when the magic or the memories outside of the pop of the guy who might have came in at 28 or whatever. But the pop is like when you get down to that final four, and then it's just about, now, are they friends? Are they foes? Are they, or especially the double? Oh, what's the biggest double cross you've seen at a at a
Ooh,
at a Royal Rumble?
the biggest double cross. Man, yeah, you see, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so much to remember because it's like, yo, so much to remember. The biggest double cross.
So this could be like a tag team,
That's what I'm
or,
saying.
or,
Like,
or or part of
here's
a
the thing.
faction or something like that. I'm trying to think myself. I mean, I'm not.
No, I ain't gonna lie. There's probably it's probably a faction, give or take. There's probably a faction that was probably heavy.
Yeah, I'm just one like, did the Shield? Did they ever have a Because you said Dean Ambrose won it once. Did the Shield? Did they have a when?
No, yeah, no, but their breakup was way before that. So no, by
Mm,
that time they were off of themselves at that point. But yeah, I just can't think of one because it's so much dialogue in between just to remember. But I would definitely would believe like definitely it would be a group. It would have to be a group.
mhm.
But just to iterate, just some comments. So Prince, so you added your comment about when Edge made his return to Run Rumble in Houston.
Tears in his
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like the moments like that when because again, you never thought you could see Edge ever wrestle again. You know what I'm saying? And funny enough, he's gonna be retiring soon as well. He I think he hinted when AEW goes back to Toronto for Wrestling Dreams. I think
Hmm.
that's his retirement right there.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that'll be his last drive right there. Also, Eric, you saying Jericho needs to retire so he can focus on his stupid band?
Yeah.
Hey, it's not his fault that he stays fit. You can't be mad at
Well,
that.
I don't know about say fit. I mean, he
I
definitely looks
mean,
a lot different now than he's
yeah,
fit
I
for a
mean,
55 or
yeah,
whatever his age is, year old guy. Yeah, but I mean, I'm like then I'll get in the ring then with half these
yeah.
guys. But certainly I would I guess the next question I have you talked about obviously when Edge came back. Or you're hoping that Chris Jericho, he seems to be the next logical one to come back. But are there others that you wanna see? Like, who would be your Royal Rumble wish list if this guy popped up? Now, again, he might even been in another, because not everybody's worked WWE. There could have been someone in NXT. I mean, AEW, or what's the other one? The not Ring of
TNA,
Honor. What's the one?
there's TNA.
TNA or some that again they may not have made the rounds um there. Like, I don't know if Samoa Joe, for example, I don't know if he was ever in a Royal Rumble, but I'm just saying, but you've had these stars
Mhm.
in other federations that maybe not made the trip, or again the person um may have been in WWE for a time, but since they left you haven't seen them again, you
Mhm.
know. And who would top your list of, like, your wish list of, you haven't seen this person for a while, but you would like to see them make a pop or make a return for a Royal Rumble. Who would amongst those guys? So either they were there and you haven't seen them for a minute, or they never made a debut in WWE, but you wouldn't mind them making their first entrance there at that event. Again, known in the wrestling community, but not necessarily in the WWE universe.
Okay, hold on. I mean, I don't have no one in particular of someone I know from yesteryear that I would want to see that. But if I had to think about some other names, because I would have to really improvise here. Because if I had to see someone that never touched WWE to come in it, who would it be?
Was that Kenny? Was Kenny Omega ever in WWE?
Yeah, but technically, through NXT, I don't know if he even made it yet, because I
Mm-hmm.
think by that time that was when the whole pandemic came through, and then that whole shift had to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I had to expect somebody, who was I? Because there's someone they have here that I would want. I don't remember who. I can't remember who though. You know what? This person. I mean, hold on. Who would it be? No, no, not this person. I'm my phone's. Hold on. I gotta find who this person.
Like, someone off the top, like, and this is like going back in time. If you could have went back to, like, the early 2000s, like the Great Muda, that would have been a pop right there. Like, I don't think Muda's ever been in WWE, but I thought he would have been phenomenal. Well, that would have been like a major pop if you could have get a guy of that caliber in the WWE. That would have been a great one. Bringing him in, and you could have had and he could have had a run, because he was that good back in the late 80s, early 90s. He might have been able to do like what Shinsei Nakamura is doing now, or what he's done a few years ago. That could have been a great Muda back in the 90s. So again, I thought that would have been one that could have came off really well.
Oh yeah, for sure. If I had to think about one, because there is one in particular. If I forgot this person's name, but let me see. Because I know there was someone else I'm thinking about. If I had to vote for this person, oh my god, where is this person? Okay, so there is okay, so this guy named Hammerstone.
Mhm.
That's who I know. I know his name that much. But yeah, his name is Hammerstone. Pretty much somewhat around the
Oh,
same.
here. Oh, this is obviously Sting.
Okay, one wrestler that I would made it big without
Yeah,
being
Sting. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
yeah,
the
I think so.
especially if Sting now again if he would have came down from the rafters, that would have that I
Oh
think
yeah,
everyone
that
would have
would
lost
have
their
been, yeah, that would have
everybody would have lost their stuff if Sting enters the because typically everyone's looking right. It's like 3, 2, 1. Everyone's looking who's coming down. He comes out the rafters. That everybody would have lost their stuff. Everybody. That would have been like the that might have been the greatest moment ever if he did that. Good looking out, Anton, on that one. Yeah, Sting would have been a major hit. And the thing about it is, you don't even necessarily have to have a run with WWE. It could be a one night only kind of deal. But again, someone like Sting, that could have been especially after the invasion angle. Then that could have been again. That might have been the biggest moment ever if that would ever came off.
yeah, for sure.
WWE didn't do Joe any favors. Yeah, I mean Samoa Joe. I mean that's the thing too. I mean some of these guys were so dominant in these other smaller federations. But again, I don't know if they ever got their stuff really realized. I mean AJ Styles, same thing. I think he probably had a better run at it in WWE than Samoa Joe did. But certainly, and Daniel Bryan. I mean, he had a huge run. Coming out of the Indies and those lower tier promotions and whatnot, Ring of Honor. I thought he had a pretty decent run there. But yeah, Samoa Joe. I don't know if they knew what to do with him. Certainly, how Vince is when it comes to his bodies.
Yeah, because that was pretty much the main issue why Joe was out. It
Vince
was,
likes his bodies, man. I mean, Yokozuna notwithstanding, he does not like the sloppy looking guy, no matter how talented you are or if you can shoot in real life. It's like you got to look because he's got to sell that merchandise, and he wants to sell those muscular dolls and action figures. And that's the thing. You got to look like an action figure to work, to really get the love from Vince. And I don't think Samoa Joe was ever going to do that, even though he was excellent on the mic, and he obviously had the skills in the ring. He could certainly do some things, but same thing with like Taz. I thought Taz was in ECW. Taz was like the scariest dude I ever saw. Like just he was doing all these kind of moves there. I thought the guy could like legitimately hurt people. But then he gets to WWE, and it's just like, he's barely a mid-carder, at that point. So it's like, it really depends on, how Vince sees you. And again, and he's small. That's the thing. And a lot of these indie promotions, you don't have those big, legitimate 250-pound guys. But again, it doesn't mean the matches aren't enjoyable on that level. So like watching Ring of Honor, or used to watch ECW back in the day. Again, smaller guys, sub 200-pound guys, but they did all the crazy stuff. Jumping off the top rope or jumping off the arena balcony onto the doing all this crazy stuff, which you can do at a smaller weight. But it didn't translate necessarily to the WWE style of wrestling at the time. So yeah, Joe, he was just it's from a marketability standpoint, I guess he wasn't Vince's guy. But I agree with you that, certainly he was phenomenal, certainly in TNA and the other promotions that he was in. They dropped the ball big time on not bringing in Sting against Undertaker as his WWE debut.
yeah,
You could have done either one. I mean, like I said, I think that the Royal Rumble, I think it's an excellent introduction. Now, again, what you do in fact, that's where I think you get your ideas for where you can drive storylines coming out of Royal Rumble events. And so again, you could have went any way possible. Like if you could have had it where, let's say if Undertaker was in I think Undertaker, once he started doing his Hell in a Cell stuff, Undertaker really wasn't a participant in those things anymore. Is that correct or no?
I mean, wait.
Because Undertaker was basically like a once a year kind of thing, right? He was in there for the Hell in a Cell. You wouldn't see him all year. and then he would do a pop on a Raw or SmackDown or something like that, where the lights go out and here it is, and you know where it's going towards it. But he became like a once a year, a one event wrestler, certainly towards the end of his career. I don't know when. I don't know when that started happening though. Like, or when did Helen? I got to see like when Hell in a Cell was happening, when he was out of the title contention. Where you weren't going to put the strap on him anymore. Where he just became, just like I said, a one event guy every year. You just knew Hell in a Cell was coming, and so at that point, I don't know if that could have been an angle that you could have went with, but certainly prior to that, yeah, you could have did a Sting Undertaker sort of thing, or introduce, maybe he might have eliminated Undertaker at just like, because my thing is, if you're gonna let who was a tough enough guy who eliminated Undertaker, it was Maven. You let Maven get Undertaker out the ring, and they did a little run. Imagine if you would have did that with Sting afterwards. Sting eliminates the Undertaker, and now you got to run going all the way up to WrestleMania for Hell in a Cell with Sting and Undertaker. That would have been, again, that would have been a pop if they would have did that.
I got another character other than what I named before too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the character, the wrestler by Vampiro?
Yes.
Then yeah, he would be another candidate for me.
Yeah.
Like throwback days, like more when he was more, fresh.
Yeah. Sure. Yep. Absolutely. That was, and again, you also had that era. You asked us, didn't some of those guys were like football players? Didn't I know Lawrence Taylor? I know he did a thing with Bam Bam Bigelow and whatnot, but didn't as for a time they had some like now they definitely do. I mean, with the Paul brothers and whatnot. I mean, these days you never know who they're going to introduce in a ring, but it almost became like a celebrity type of thing. You just wanted like football players to be part of it as well. So I mean, they made all kinds of surprise appearances and things of that nature, but yeah, man. I mean, I think that the who I would like to see at this point. Again, I've been out of it for a minute, and I would have to really think about who I would want that was like really popular and is no longer with the company. I don't know, Rusev. Maybe something like that, or
Rusev is back in WWE, so
he's back. Okay, so yes, like I said, I've been out of it for a minute, so I'm just trying to think about guys who are just no longer there. They might be in TNA or something like that now, that could make a legit return in that. Oh, someone I would have liked to have seen also, believe it or not, it was a phenomena that I never understood. Fandango. Now, I know he's back. The guy Fandango, I think he's back in NXT at this point. I forget. He's another
I know what you're talking about. No, because he actually retired in TNA.
But I thought he made a comeback of some kind, or he made an appearance.
Yeah, he made an appearance, I believe.
Yeah. But even still, when he made the appearance, people lost their stuff and they started singing the Fandango song. So imagine if he came back for one night only, right? Mm. And people start doing the Fandangoing.
Mm. Yeah. Hey, you can never walk away from the music, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's seared into my brain. I can't get rid of it.
Music do about to make you do the cha-cha.
I can't get rid of it. It's here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. So if he came back, yeah, that'd be one. That
would be crazy work. That would be crazy work.
Yeah. Now Booker T might be a little long in the tooth at this point. I don't even know what kind of shape he's in now. So yeah, definitely someone.
Do a little. I mean, because he got his own wrestling corporation, he does do a little, but I don't think so to the capacity that you would want in this timeline.
Yeah,
give or take, but
yeah. A lot of those older guys, they just don't do well. The last guy I saw really do well, for his for his age, was Ricky Steamboat, and I think it was WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, I forgot
I
what.
think it was WrestleMania 20 or something like that, and it was him, Snuka, who looked awful. I mean, I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
watch
they from all the classic.
Snuka, Piper, but Steamboat, it's like you were just amazed, like he still, and they like the crowd kept yelling, "You still got it." I mean, it
Yeah, yeah,
was
yeah. They will stay able to move and all that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that
Oh,
was one that popped, but that's rare.
yeah,
That is very rare.
yeah. You know what they say, like just being nimble.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, stay with it. Although some guys like you got like Eric, the Rock and Roll Express are still wrestling now. Like I don't know if you ever watched. Have you ever watched Wally NWA Power?
NW Pro. I know of it. I haven't. I've seen a little bit of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's mostly YouTube,
yeah,
but it's basically who I forget the name of the guy, but apparently he purchased or he bought back
yeah.
the old NWA title. And
Mhm.
so if you look at the ring, if you look at it's very old school,
Yeah, aesthetic.
reminiscent of
Yeah,
again that Southern wrestling.
yeah, yeah.
And so I'm looking at some of the acts there. I'm
I
like, man, you got the Midnight Express. Y'all, these guys like almost 80 years old. Y'all still wrestling. it's like, but hey, kudos to them. Keeps you active for sure. Keep them joints nimble. But I'm just still thinking to myself, you got these guys going up against 20-year-old guys or whatever. I'm like, there's a credibility thing there. But
yeah,
hey, it's a job, and I guess they still like performing. You don't have to carry those guys out the ring at some point. But yeah, it gets to a point where it's like it's time to hang up the wrestling boots. But what
right,
else you gonna do? Fish? I don't know, but
yeah.
you'd rather be in the ring. But yeah. So you said Royal Rumble's tomorrow. Any? Oh, before we go there, um, question on: is there a women's Rumble?
Yes, there is. So the women's Royal Rumble started in 2018. That's when they started, and we had literally one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight like winning contestants since then.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how do those compare? Because I've never seen one.
Mm.
How do those compare? I guess to the men's events. You know.
So I would say it's pretty much the same. Like for women, so I think if I'm not mistaken, they don't do like the over the top. Like they do like if you're in the second
The
row.
second rope, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what they do, give or take, as far as I can remember,
Hmm.
as like the lowest contingents. But other than that, it's pretty much the same ordeal. I think in more cases than not, through the women's Royal Rumble, you definitely have saw more of the female, like a decent handful of the female legends, like the Litas, the Trish Stratus,
Hmm. Hmm.
a few of them. Yeah,
Yeah. But as far as entertainment value, though, you find it as good as the men's product,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, yeah, yeah. Definitely, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, they can sell.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, all right. Well, so speaking of tomorrow's event, any things I guess we should know about because like you said, now leaks are everywhere now. So is there a secret slash non secret that's already out as far as who's going to make a surprise appearance or whatever, or any rumors as
None,
far as who's coming
none
back?
that I've heard of. I mean, right now, I always say this: it's always smart to keep "quote unquote" the guessing of who will be in the Rumble, because I think
Hmm.
this is the one thing like they do that they very much be keen. I don't think so they ever do a list, but I do know they had thrown out a list out there before.
Hmm.
Now I have to find the clips. I don't remember who was all the names and who was in that order. But Lord knows if that order is correct, that even makes it worse. So I'm glad I just don't remember it. But pretty much like, cause so far the events for Royal Rumble right now is like what Drew as the champion versus Sami Zayn for the title.
Hmm.
Um, they got the 30 man. They got the 30 man's Royal Rumble. So far, we know 15 contestants that will be in it. That is Austin Theories, Braun Breaker, Brunson Reed, Cody Rhodes, Dragon Lee, Gunther, Jacob Fatu, Javon Evans, Jay Uso, Logan Paul, Obafemi. Which technically that is a surprise. That is a surprise because technically Obafemi has not signed to a particular roster yet, neither Raw or SmackDown. Then we got Penta, Rey Mysterio, Roman Reigns, and Solo Sikoa.
Mm.
Uh, Others, like for instance Brock, but it's not confirmed, but it could be expected.
Is
Dominic,
Grayson Waller still there?
Grayson Waller, yes, he is still there.
Mm.
Dominic Mysterio may be there based upon quote unquote posters, but he also has an injury, so no one will know if he's cleared just yet.
Mm.
What else is there? Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Uh, so yeah, it's just gonna be one of those things, but definitely Oba's gonna be one of those surprises. Where does he land though? As
Mm.
far as the numbers, is gonna be very interesting. But he is one of the many surprises that people are speculating because during his last NXT title defense, he literally put the title down and pretty much withdrew it. And so people are expecting him to be on the main roster. Which side of the roster? No one know yet. They're still working on that
Mm.
because of how they already developed it already.
All right. Now, what do you think of this here? I don't know what their contracts are. I guess Moxley, he's still with AEW, but
Yeah.
do you think the Shield may have? And that might be a show that you guys may want to entertain in the future. Factions, but certainly the Shield. I must admit I was a fan of the Shield back in the day, and I know they did at least 2 reunions of the Shield. I'm wondering if they're gonna, would they be up for trying to do a third? If Ambrose comes back, that would be interesting if something like that happens. But yeah, that was a very popular faction. At least the most one I remember recently. I know you've had, Latino factions and whatnot since then. Obviously you got the tribal thing with the Samoans and all that
Yeah,
stuff. But
but
just as far, yeah.
they ain't like what it used to be back in the days because of storytelling these days. They ain't sexy how they used to. Not sexy. But to answer the question, if John Moxley were to return as Dean Ambrose, don't be surprised if both Roman and Seth show up for one last ride as Shield. To be honest, even if John Moxley / Dean Ambrose come back, I'm not expecting a massive Shield reunion ASAP. I'm just not, especially with the history and the story, like how people do it. It is like that's not something you just gradually just welcome back like ASAP. Like that's something like how we would say dire. Like okay, I don't like you, you don't like me, but you know what? I don't like the situation. So yeah, I'm not seeing that as a quick fix thing.
Right.
Like no.
Right. All right. Well, certainly this has been actually it's a lot more fun than I hung in longer than I thought it was. Like I said, that first 30 minutes, I said like I'm gassed, but I'm glad we were able to keep a conversation going for this long, and that I was able to prompt some good questions. But yeah, I think we can start to kind of wind this down. I don't know how long typically your wrestling show is supposed to go. We're about an hour and going on an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean,
But
right now, I mean, we can pretty much close it out. I mean, the main thing I wanted to throw out as well for the women,
please.
for like as far as what you can expect, because there's 17 confirmed known women for the 30 women's Royal Rumble. So we got Alexa Bliss, we got Asuka, we got Bayley, we got Becky Lynch, we got Charlotte Flair, we got Chelsea Green, we got Julia, we got Io Sky, we got Jordan Grace, we got Lash Legends, we got Liv Morgan, Lyra Valkyria, Maxi Dupree, Nia Jax, Raquel Rodriguez, Rhea Ripley, and Roxanne Perez. So some are also speculating the possible return of Tiffany Stratton, which might be the case because on the sideline she's been showing that she's been keeping fit. So more likely, so she could be one of those surprise pops. I will say this because it's going to be interesting with the development of how the female side of the team of the Judgment Day has been sort of looking. And I could see very much it being a little schizo as far as how they're going to partner up since 3 of them are in the Rumble. But yeah, so as far as any mystery options, I'm not really seeing no one else because they already moved up every other female from the NXT that they wanted. So I'm not seeing no one coming up from there.
Right.
Give or take. And then of course mainly the main two are just, champions, and everyone else is like, you can look at what it is. I mean, granted, the main surprise that people are speculating, but I don't know if it's even gonna happen, and that is Bianca, because of the story with Bianca and Jade that they want to sell. I don't know if that's gonna happen, but it's something that people are speculating and hoping to happen. Even though honestly, I hope it don't, because at this point it's a little bit too late. And the reason why I say this is because you're coming back now, and you haven't been here for a good minute, and it's like y'all should have been, interacting with each other a little bit beforehand. Then you go into the Rumble and then you win, and then you're like, now it's like it's a little bit too late. Please don't sell it. But they might, so it is what it is. We'll see what happens.
I hear you.
And then, of course, they're going to do the AJ versus Gunther, which, of course, if AJ loses, he will retire. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But 9 to 10, the Lord have mercy. They might make that happen. I don't know.
This is true. Yeah, two factions who we'll never see again. Yeah, the Hart Foundation and the NWO. Yeah, those are, and again, that might be something that, again, I don't know how far you guys go back. Or if you guys thinking about like doing retrospectives, but like I know the NWO, that was a big thing. Certainly during the Wrestle Wars between WWF and WCW. But Eric and I, we go back to the Four Horsemen, so that's so again we go back a bit on that. But like you said, I don't know if factions. Story wise, do they carry over the way they used to back in the day? But certainly.
Well, yeah, because they're just not promoting them right. But even with the Hart Foundation, I mean, they could have did the Hart Foundation because they got Natty, but then you have to sign the other guys that are outside of them WWE right now, like bring them back in to even sell that one. But
yeah. See, that's the thing. Now, AJ Lee getting the mega pop. Now, again, she got a mega when she came back for her husband. Now, again, if she made her return in the female Royal Rumble, but again, that depends on when. Yes,
so I can see that happen.
Yeah,
the fact that the thing is though, because they do have her signed under contract. The thing is, she hasn't really done nothing in the mix of coming back though. So it's sort of like, granted, don't get me wrong, the Royal Rumble thing will still be nice. It just seems like. The thing is, when we see like any of these people come back and they have a contract, I just hope they actually do something where they actually would do some extra work. It just feels like you're just in the scenery and it's like you're tiptoed in and out, and it's like
for sure, yeah.
Because you want consistency with these stories, and it's like there's no consistency.
Right. Now I agree with that. Have them, have more of a run. Now, again, I get, like, if you're at the end of your career or, again, you can't put, 200 days on the road or 300 days on the road anymore. I get that also. That's like I said, when Undertaker started basically being a one-event performer, like I said, I get it, after a while that you just don't need that wear and tear on yourself. But yeah, having people who can come back, come in for a reasonable storyline that has a definitive ending and then you can kind of move on. Yeah, I think there needs to be I think there needs to be a balance there, but yeah, man, we can. I think we can, put a bow on this one. Again, Holy Peter, he'll be back with you next week. But again, if I need to be tagged in any time, again, like I said, I'm not as up. My daughter is though; she's a huge fan. Like she's definitely watching Royal Rumble tomorrow. She's got the Disney Plus package. So I guess I could watch it anytime I want to if I can get into it. But like I said, I've been so busy with everything else. I have very little time for following anything like NFL, which is coming up. Next week is the Super Bowl. So, that'll be winding down. And then you got these other sports that I marginally follow. So really, like my ability to take on something new or get back and engage in a meaningful way. I mean, I get the shorts from her. Because she'll come downstairs running, especially if one of her girls, especially on the women's side, if someone won a championship, she'll come running downstairs like, Dad, so-and-so won the ladies' championship again and whatnot. I'm like, I'm like, I'm so out of it. It's like the last time I was really in, we went to, we did a Friday night SmackDown at Madison Square Garden. I mean, I gotta tell you, that was probably the most electrifying experience I think I've ever had in
Right.
terms of audience. And again, I've been to professional football games, college football, basketball games, a lot of different professional sports venues that I've gone to. I've never heard a crowd that loud or engaged. Like the whole culture, like the calls, the cat calls of the performers and things of that nature. Like they were hyped up before the show even started, and
Right.
people were already into it. So I think that and my wife and I were actually low key. We're going to a Bruno Mars concert this summer you know, 'cause my wife, she loves Bruno Mars, and that's going to be our day night. But even I can't imagine it being more than that. You know what I mean? It was that event, concerts. It just doesn't compare. I mean, a live experience at one of those events is, if you ever get a chance to go to any like Raw, SmackDown, or let alone WrestleMania. In fact, because I think she was trying to go. I think they had last year. I think they had WrestleMania. I think it was in Philly, which is about an hour and a half from us. But the tickets were they were wanting 4 digits. At least for the tickets she wanted, it's like 4 digits. I was like, maybe I would say this: the next time it's in the tri-state area, and if you really want to go, because she doesn't have a ton of friends who are in the wrestling world like that. I'm kind of like the closest link to it. So it's like, all right, next time you want to go to an event, we'll have our daddy daughter date night going there. But it's an amazing experience. Have you ever been to a major event? Yeah,
Uh,
it is unbelievable. I like I said, because it was it that year I went to I was at MSG a couple times. We went to a Lionel, way before you time, Lionel Richie concert was there. Huge Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, we were big audiences, sold out. It just didn't have the, like I said, the energy. You know, like I said, I've just never seen that. And up to like the last people in the stands, like all the way up, people were just lit up, and I was just like, So yeah, if you ever get a chance to go, that is definitely a bucket list type of thing you want to be able to experience. You're in Florida, right?
yeah, I'm in Florida.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if something comes down your way, man, that's a ride.
Yeah.
I'll say that. And I was trying to describe it to like people who are not wrestling fans. They don't get it. And I'm saying, you don't even have to be a wrestling fan, right? Just go, you know, and you'll be like, I don't know what's going on, but this is lit. It's it's like it is a very powerful it is a very powerful experience. Like I said, the best I've ever went to. Yeah, his friends say went to WrestleMania last year. Yeah, that's an expensive date, no doubt. You know, but you say if you got the funds to swing it, but everything's like that now. I mean, the Super Bowl coming up, remaining tickets like they want like on average like $10,000
Mhm.
to go to Super Bowl. I mean, it's like all of these corporate championship events. Everybody is looking for maximum dollar, and I guess there's people who are willing to pay those prices. So yeah. So I'm good at home. You even got an event tomorrow night, Madison Square Garden. You got a big boxing match, boxing card tomorrow night at Madison Square Garden. I'll buy the pay per view for $70, but that's about as much as I'm willing to swing at this point. But yeah, I mean, there's so many things that you certainly experience. But I don't even think that crowd's going to be as lit as, like I said, when a SmackDown or a Raw comes into MSG. It's like nothing beats that. But yeah, let's. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up, Wally?
Oh yeah. So just throw some cliffhangers of some things to watch out for the event. So as far as longest runs for men and women, so I guess the newest one, I didn't know this, but Gunther, he has the longest run right now while being the Royal Rumble, 1 minute an hour, 11 minutes, 40 seconds in 2023. So that's the current one right now. And then Bailey for 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 3 seconds when she did it in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Most eliminations is from Brock Lesnar, 13 and this was achieved in 2020. For the females, this is Shayna Baszler / Bianca Belair with 8. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah.
Of course, the shortest time in the world, which I don't think so. No one's gonna break these no time soon. But they got Santino Marella with 1.9 seconds, which is
Yeah, I didn't. I remember again. This is going back. The Bushwhackers. I think they came in and they used to do this thing where they moved their hands up and down, got in the ring, got flipped out, and they went out the ring. It was just really gimmicky stuff. I remember those guys, but
And then on the female side, Chelsea Green got 5 seconds. And then, of course, the most lucrative eliminations. Kane has literally 46 eliminations in total to this date. So we'll see how that pans out as far as being in the Royal Rumble, and then how they continue to eliminate. And then, of course, on the female side, Rhea Ripley got 20. Which is Of course, as you guys already know, number 27, as they say, has been the luckiest number because it's been where the big wins has come out of. So 4 people: Big John Studd, Yokozuna, Bret Hart, and Steve Austin. Of course, coming from number 1, if you're able to maintain this, that is the Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit, Edge, and Rhea Ripley, coming from the number 1, starting from the start and ending it. And then, of course, they said this is the number. Okay, number 30 is actually the curse number. Okay, interesting.
Okay.
They said for years, number 30 was considered cursed until The Undertaker finally won in the spot. So we'll see if anyone for number 30 ever, quote unquote, finishes. If they ever break that past that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm actually gonna look at again DraftKings or whoever. I'm just curious, are there brackets for this? And I just want to see if there's any winners or who got close to like picking all 30 in a row, and is there, like I said, what the payout is for something like that. I may look at the gambling angle of that. I'm very curious now to see if someone's done that. But I'm thinking now, millions of entries. I would think that your chances of somebody's got to win. It's like when someone hits the Powerball, right? Somebody's got to win that thing. So I'm thinking there's got to be somebody out there who picks it right. But
but that'll just be heavy, especially if you don't know exactly who's the names and then how you put it in the order. But
you just put even if you took them out, you just pick them out of a hat, right? Just like bingo, right? You just put them in an order. It's one entry. And and some people, it's just like when they pay the lottery. You play 20, you tell the person that you don't even have to do numbers. Just give me 20 randoms. So I'm thinking, look, one of those randoms may hit. You probably just as well doing that as putting a lot of the analytics in, trying to figure it out. So look,
No, you got a point. Yeah.
Yep. So just mix it up. But certainly want to thank you guys for being with us tonight on certainly on this wrestling show. Again, Peter, he should be back, I think, next week, and we'll get there. He'll announce during the week, what the top's going to be for future upcoming shows. Again, make sure you hit the like button, certainly as you leave tonight. Enjoy Royal Rumble tomorrow. If you're a fight fan, you got the, again, Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, Newark versus Brooklyn. So that's a big deal, certainly in this area. So again, if you're a boxing fan, if you want to see that kind of action, that's going on tomorrow night. And and then, like I said, we got one more week after that is the Super Bowl. So again, lots of activities out there. But however you spend it. Now, Wally, what's the temperature where you're at now in Florida?
It's 57.
57. All right. Today was 3.
Yeah, my brother.
And then tomorrow is going to be like, I think I saw tomorrow morning is going to be like 1 degree tomorrow morning. Yeah. So we are in the midst of, this is winter, cold. I was telling my wife, it's like, we got to get out of here because I don't know. I'm taking vitamin D to keep my emotions and everything together, but I'm like, we may need to just a quick getaway weekend, go down to, if not to Florida, go to Puerto Rico or something like that, like an extended 3-4 day weekend or something. But I am sick of this because it's like it snowed so much last week and we've had a cold front. So like all the snow is staying. All you see in these big snow mounds everywhere. And it's just like, I'm just not, can I get 32 degrees at this point? But that's not coming anytime soon. So again, I'm envious of your 50+ degree weather. We could use, all of us could use some of that right now, but that's not coming anytime soon. So again, enjoy what you have. You don't know you how much you enjoyed it until you don't have it anymore. So again, life lesson right there.
Because that's me early. Because it was the other day, boy, when it dropped like down 37 or 35 degrees, I was like, yeah, this slightly got to go. I asked for cold, but I didn't ask for this cold.
Yeah, but when it's like the average temperature this week has been like 10 to 12, like all week, and I got to put on a space. I got to walk my dog every night, so I got to put on like a spacesuit kind of to go out there and be with him out there. So I'm like, man, so this has to stop, man. But for everybody, again, enjoy the rest of your week. Wally, thanks again for hopping on for the combo, and certainly always supporting you guys and certainly what you're doing. But you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Stay tuned tomorrow night at the Hangout show. In fact, I got to see what the topic is. I got to I got to look it up. Hang on. Can I look this baby up without exiting? Let me see if I can do this. Nope, I don't want to go out. Yeah, so tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, it's Doomslayer versus Samus Aran, Hell versus Space.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Operation Hangout conversation.
Right. And then on Gray Area on Sunday, I think we're talking.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So we gotta Hangout show. So again, we got stuff coming up. We'll announce the show tomorrow night, and then we gotta think of a new batch. I think we're about to drop a new batch of Gray Area shows as well. So again, lots of stuff going on in the network, guys. Like I said, make sure you subscribe to the network, stay up to breast of everything that's going on. And but until we see you guys again, Wally, thank you once again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Everybody else, be safe out there. Dress warm if you're in the Northeast. But until next time, take care and good night.